reaching for me. We'll call the City Council regular meeting to order for Monday, September 18th, 2023. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Hoyt.
Here.
Councilmember Bernatz. Here. Councilmember Lean.
Here.
Councilmember Porter. Here. Councilmember Wilson.
Here. All right. Any changes to the agenda? No. Leah, Nick, Holly?
None.
All right. Unless there's any changes, I look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Holly, second by Katie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving on to item 6, which is our citizen comments. If there's anyone in attendance wishing to speak at this time? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 7, which is our consent agenda. Look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion.
Motion by Katie, second by Steve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, moving right along, we will go to our public hearings, item 8.1, which is the ordinance amending the 2023 fee schedule with state tax increase effective October 1st, 2023. And Shirley.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For your review tonight is an ordinance amending the 2023 fee schedule. The state recently added a 1% tax on sales and use that is going into effect on October 1st. It is for sales and purchases in the 7-county area. 0.25% of this tax will support housing projects in the metro area. 0.75% of this tax will support transportation projects in the metro area. At this time, rates have not been changed on the fee schedule. That'll come later in the year. Right now, we're just doing the sales tax. What that covers in our 2023 fee schedule, what it affects is advertising in the Currents, park facility rentals, Rambling River Center rentals, advertising at the arena fees, including open hockey, open skating, skate rental, etc., field use fees, and other services and fees such as ball field dragging and soccer field lining. The rates have been adjusted to the new rate in your packet. There's a red line version, rounded up to the next whole dollar. And so council needs to hold a public hearing on this and pass the ordinance amendment.
All right, thank you, ma'am. And since this is a public hearing, we'll open the public hearing at this time. Do you have anyone have any questions for Shirley? Nick? Holly?
I have none.
Steve?
None.
No questions, and I have no questions. It's a public hearing. If there's anyone in attendance wishing to speak regarding the state's 1% sales tax. All right, seeing none, at this time we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And if there's any additional commentary or statements, all right, seeing none, then I would look in for a motion to approve the ordinance, or adopting the ordinance 23775, amending changes in fees for licenses, permits, and other city approvals and services for calendar year 2023 to include Minnesota sales tax increase effective October 1st, 2023.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Nick. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Bernatz.
Yes.
Councilmember Lean.
Yes.
Councilmember Porter. Yes. Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Mayor Hoyt.
Yes. All right. New business, item 12.1 is the preliminary 2024 general fund budget and tax levy. Chris.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I'm here to present the 2024 general fund budget and tax levy. The budget development starts in early May, runs through July. Management staff submits, reviews, and revises the budgets. August, September, council reviews the draft budgets, provides feedback and input on their budget, on the budgets. Then in September here, which is where we're at tonight, we adopt the preliminary tax levy, and this year it's by October 2nd, 2023. We have to have it into the county, the certification. In October, November, we review and update the rates and fee schedules, review and update the budgets if necessary, and then the truth and taxation statements are mailed out to the residents in early November. And in December, we receive public input and adopt final budgets and tax levy. The budget was created and based on the 2024 city priorities of business growth, community engagement, infrastructure support, and employee engagement. When we start crafting the budgets, the first thing we look at is what are we going to spend? General fund expenditures. So you can see here total general fund expenditures have increased by 13.62%. And there's primarily a couple increases for that are driving that 13.62%. The first of which is increase of the pay plans to the 75th percentile of market. 2.5 new positions are in the general fund, increase in IT service charges, and an increase in fleet service charges. And there's also some new software costs that are in finance, community development, and parks and recreation that are driving this increase. Once the expenditures have been determined, then we start looking at general fund revenues. Revenues show a 23.54% increase over 2023. Starting with license and permits, you can see there is about a 15% decrease, and that's due to a decrease in building permit revenues due to a slowdown of single-family home development as a result of the increase in interest rates over the last 15 to 18 months by the Federal Reserve. We do see increases in intergovernmental revenue of 23%, due primarily to increase in municipal state aid revenue, police and fire state aid revenue, and federal, state, and county grants. Charges for services show a 20% increase, and this is due to increased fire service charges and in engineering fees. Investment income, I'm very conservative on that, just based on the last 2 years where we've had a negative impact on our investment income based on our mark-to-market calculation. So I'm hoping we get at least $10,000, but I don't know if that's even going to happen. Miscellaneous shows about a $15,000 increase, and the transfers in show a 52% increase. And this is due to a $250,000 increase from the employee expense fund, which is to help offset that increase in the pay plans to the 75th percentile. Also, there's a $300,000 transfer in, an operating transfer in just to the general fund to help buy down the levy from the closed bond fund and a capital project fund. So once we've determined what our expenditures are and what our revenues are, then we can determine what our tax levy is. So we start with our general fund expenditures, we subtract out our general fund revenues other than tax revenues, then we subtract out what our fiscal disparities distribution is we get that information from the county, then we come up with the general fund levy. From there we add our EDA levy, which is the first time the city has an EDA levy for 2024, and then we add in our debt levy of $1.7 million, and that gives us our net tax levy of $14,308,000, or a 12.23% increase over 2023. So what does a 12.23% levy include? If we look at within the business growth priority, we have our Economic Development Authority levy of $150,000. This will help provide funding for initiatives to strengthen, grow, and attract businesses, provide for strategic memberships for generating business leads, increase marketing, targeted business recruitment, program development to support businesses. Also within that levy increase, we have our comprehensive plan implementation, zoning code updates, and small area studies to examine development and redevelopment areas. Within community engagement, we have additional funding for programming for police department community engagement, publication of the city newsletter on a quarterly basis, funding for the 2024 general election, solid waste recycling joint powers agreement, and improved website design. Within infrastructure support, we have continued and increased funding for some of them for street maintenance, trail maintenance, EAB management, building maintenance, vehicle and equipment funding, pavement condition ratings, and accelerated sidewalk replacement program. As I mentioned earlier, we also have some IT infrastructure improvements, new recreation software, building permit software, and new finance, accounting, payroll, utility software in 2024. We have a new fire water tender, a new roller compactor in public works, field striper for park maintenance. In the Rambling River Center, we have preventative maintenance agreements for the fitness machines and also the purchase of a new fitness machine. And within the police department, increased DCC costs, body and squad camera contracts, and some new equipment purchases. Within employee engagement, as I mentioned earlier, improved pay plans to the 75th percentile of market, increased staffing by the 2.5 FTEs, two full-time public works operators and a half-time grant writer. Health insurance is increasing by 9%, which is pretty much happens every year nowadays. Then they have an increase in employee training. So once we have our net tax levy and our gross tax levy, we can determine what our tax rate is, which will be applied to the individual properties to determine what their city portion of their tax will be. So we start with our gross levy of $16 million. we subtract out our fiscal disparities distribution, we get our net levy of $14,308,000. We then go to look at our gross tax capacity, information that we receive from the county. We subtract out from that our captured TIF tax capacity and our fiscal disparities contribution to the fiscal disparities pool, and we get our net tax capacity of $31 million approximately. Then we take that net tax capacity, divide that into our net levy, and we get our proposed tax rate of just a little over 46%, or a 7% increase over the prior year. This slide here just shows a 10-year history of what the city of Farmington's tax rate has been. We had a dip last year due to primarily to the increased market value and increased tax capacity that we saw, and then we show a little bit of an increase this year. Just shows our existing debt service over the last several years. For 2024, our debt service tax levy is $1.7 million. This does not take into account any future or potential future debt. Average residential taxable market value. You can see from 2021 to 2022, we had a significant increase. It's about a 20% increase. For 2022 to 2023, the increase was only about 4.4%. So we know what our tax capacity rate is, and we know what our estimated market value is. So what is the estimated impact on the Farmington residents in 2024? So we look at what we paid, well, what the estimate would be for 2023 based on a $339,000 market value. It's $1,456. So in 2024, based on a $354,000 property at a new tax rate of 46%, it's going to be $1,630 or $173 increase over 2023, or $14.44 per month. So that brings us to the action requested tonight is to adopt the resolution establishing the 2024 preliminary tax levy as proposed, and also to set the public input meeting of the final budget and tax levy for December 4th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And I'll try to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, sir. Katie, any questions?
So just to be clear, when you're calculating the average resident contribution for 2024, you're basing that on a median household. So you said 354,000.
Yeah, that's
roughly.
yeah.
That's that median put out by the
That's
county.
that's what the county's telling us. Okay. Yes. And you
Um,
take that 354,000 and you take 1% of that, then you apply the tax capacity rate to that 1%.
Correct. Okay. I don't have any other questions right now. Thank you so much for putting this together and presenting.
Steve?
Yeah, a couple, really more of a couple comments. Chris, I really cannot thank you enough for all of the incredible work. I mean, I know that doing the budget, I think starts probably in about March, April, right after the auditors get done. You kind of start.
I start doing a lot of the behind the scenes work, setting it up and things like that, yeah.
Because, you know, when you're in finance, one of the most things you look forward to after the audit, which is an exciting piece, is to like, I can't wait to start getting going on that budget. But really, you know, Lynn, Chris, the whole team, from my end as a decision maker, you look at the preliminary, and of course, this is a preliminary budget. It can't go up from this point. It can always go down. You kind of stare at that number and you're like, wow, that's a 12.23%. That's a pretty big number. To put that in perspective, though, from my end, one of the reasons that there's a lot of exciting things that are happening in the city is thanks to our team here. And, if you're looking to get a world-class team, you want to make sure that you're able to keep and retain them. And that's an investment that you have to make, and it's an investment that I think is absolutely something that you do. Residents around town have seen trees coming down because pretty much everyone's being impacted by the emerald ash borer, and that's a really big ticket item. Really, it probably should have started more aggressively before this point in time, but that's a big ticket item. And the $150,000 that you pointed out that the EDA authorized for a new levy for the Economic Development Authority, this is something that all of us hear from every single resident. We need more commercial growth. We need more things happening. No different than the type of work that you do. It's all about relationships, building relationships. I mean, Deanna and Steph and the team, that $150,000 is going to have such a gargantuan multiplier of things that it's going to benefit the city with. So, I never like to say I'm excited about a 12% increase because I wouldn't say I'm excited about it, but I know that this is a huge investment into the growth of Farmington down the road. And for that reason, I'm very comfortable with it.
Thank you. Nick?
Probably in the same vein as Steve, I think, seeing that 12%, I think the difference for me and why it's less or more palatable would be just, this feels like the first year where we've understood the costs that we need to do, and now we're going to attack them. It's your worst truth, Josh, right? We're turning a corner to fix things, so it's not enjoyable, but it's a necessity, and I'm happy we're doing it based on sound data and good judgment that you guys aren't going faster. We're not just throwing money at a problem and hoping it goes away. You guys have told us the pace you can go at, and that's what we're going at. So I think this was a really sound and data-driven decision. So thank you.
Thank you. Holly?
I feel like Steve and Nick have, really covered a lot of the bases. The only thing that I would have to add is that I appreciate that we're really all looking at this from a very similar perspective. We see what needs to be done. We're not randomly putting numbers out that we think are going to be palatable numbers, that we think are going to be, more than what's needed, but rather, we've had these conversations about what has to happen in order to set us onto the trajectory that we need to be on in order to continue to be successful as a city. And I can't say enough about the work that has gone in from every department to come back and give us the information that we need in a digestible way, so that we can have these open conversations about what has to happen in order for us to not fall behind. And I think this is a necessary step for us to not fall behind.
Thank you. Yeah, not to add a whole lot to that, because we've covered this in extensive detail the last few months. We've spent the last 6 to 9 months doing all of the appropriate planning, the pavement management study, understanding that we know that there's work to be done, but where are we going to do it? What is the priority? Emerald Ash Borer. This is not a 1-year event. This is a 5-year plan. This is not something that's going to go away next year. There are 3,000 plus boulevard trees alone that need to come down. Stumps to be ground, plantings to take place. There's a cost essentially to do business. Getting our staff at the 75th percentile aligned with our pillars and aligned with our focus on team, targeting high-level talent, retaining high-level talent, because of the unique challenges that this community presents. And you can't spend percentages, but I look at it as it's $15 a month for the average homeowner based on median value. In the overall scheme of things, it's a very small investment into the large amount of work that's going to take place in this community over fiscal year 2024. So I look forward to the output of all of the work that we have put into the last 6 months, and this is merely a formality of the process. At this point, I would look for a motion to adopt Resolution R62-23, adopting the preliminary budget and setting the 2024 preliminary tax levy and debt service levy, establishing the 2024 preliminary tax levy as proposed, and to set the public input meeting prior to the adoption of the final 2024 budget and tax levy for Monday, December 4th, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Steve, second by Holly. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lean,
Yes.
Councilmember Porter,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Mayor Hoyt,
Yes.
Councilmember Burnett.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, item 12.2 is the professional services agreement with Kimley-Horn for the 2024 street and utility improvements and the 2024 Mill and Overlay Project feasibility study and 30% design. John.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. During our past item that you just discussed, you mentioned the pavement rating, pavement management system. This action takes that information, rating the pavements, and puts it into action, out in the field, out in the system. So what we have here is the feasibility report and 30% design. We have 2 projects involved. One is the 2024 street and utility improvements. which is the complete reconstruction. So we're doing 6th Street from Ash Street to about 200 feet south of Walnut. We're doing Maple Street from 4th to 6th and Maple east of 6th. So you'll notice that 2 of those roads are on the boundary of Farmington Elementary School. I was actually out meeting with the principal today on site, walking around the site, along with Dan Miller from the district, looking at issues that they're finding challenging so we can try and address those as part of the project. And other conversations like that will happen with other property owners within the project site. This also, feasibility 30% design includes our mill and overlay project. We have a variety of roadways proposed. We're not doing one area of the city. We're taking pavement segments that have similar ratings and that would be appropriate for a mill and overlay and doing those, but they're in scattered areas throughout the city. So we have work on Upper 182nd, Euclid Street, Embry Avenue, Embers Avenue, 208th, Eaton, 213th, 9th, and Spruce Street. And these are areas where it's not warranted for complete reconstruction, but it's warranted for an edge mill or a surface mill, addressing any utility issues we have, maybe some curb repairs, and then putting a new layer of bituminous over the top. And part of that new layer, the purpose of that new layer of bituminous is to restore the crown of the roadway. What happens over time is the crown kind of gets washed out, it gets flat, so water is sitting on the pavement instead of being shed to the curb and gutter. So part of the intent of the mill and overlay is to build up that crown again, so it's shedding the water like it should. So you approved a consultant pool earlier this year, and Kimley-Horn is one of the approved firms in that pool. In addition to the feasibility report and 30% design, this includes neighborhood meetings, stakeholder coordination meetings, public information, and we do anticipate having a website for property owners to add items that they have concerns about directly onto the website, similar to what we did for the comprehensive planning process. Very interactive, easy to use. The general schedule for the project would be completing the feasibility in the next couple of months, preparing final design in December, opening bids probably in February, and then having a pre-construction meeting and construction beginning when weather conditions permit. As we are working around the elementary school, we'll be focusing on the summer months after school's out before it convenes again in the fall. But as I indicated to the principal, there may be things that the contractor can complete that doesn't interfere with their activities that we would maybe get started in mid-May before school's out. So the recommended action, I want to talk about the amount budgeted in the CIP. So that included $3 million for the reconstruction and additional $1 million for mill and overlay on an annual basis. Part of the reason that we're not authorizing feasibility, final design, construction is because the scope of the projects can change at each point, and we don't want to have to come back and renegotiate or have extras with our consultants. So we're taking this through 30% design. We'll look at the preliminary costs. It could be that that reconstruction project area gets extended a little bit, or the mill and overlay area gets contracted a little bit to hit our budget targets. But our goal is to hit our budget targets, including soft costs. So the recommended action is to approve the professional services agreement with Kimley-Horn for the 2024 street and utility improvements and the 2024 mill and overlay project feasibility study and 30% design. With that, I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Thank you, sir. Nick?
I have absolutely no questions. I think there's a lot of people in that downtown area that will be very happy to see their roads getting fixed.
Holly?
No, I don't have questions. I appreciate all of the thought and effort that's been put into taking these projects on in a manner that makes sense. That isn't just randomly pulling things from every direction. So that's a beautiful thing that you've got going. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie?
Yeah, like Councilmember Burnett's mentioned, your approach to this is spot on, what we've needed for a long time, and very sequential, and we very much appreciate that. So looking forward to seeing some of these repairs done. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Steve?
No additional comments.
I couldn't be more proud of the entire team to get to this point. You know, I started in 2019 and it was Westview Acres. And then we worked in towards the roundabout, and then Aiken Road. We got Spruce Street done. We are working our way towards the bigger projects and the volume and velocity of projects that this community and its residents have known have existed for a long time. This was a major commitment to our goals. When we earlier this year put on the board and we said to meet industry standards for infrastructure, that was saying we currently did not, and we were below average. And the addition of new leadership, new team members, a commitment to the vision and the planning, doing the study, the analysis to make sure that we were making data-driven decisions, to lead into a commitment to make sure these projects come to fruition. This is a big deal for this community, and while some of our residents may not realize it at this time, this is the first of, we'll say, 4, 5, 6 years to go of projects and numbers to this scale. So this is just the beginning of our commitment to our infrastructure and ensuring that our community can withstand time as it pertains to our roads and trails. So I appreciate all of the work you and your team have put into this, and to my peers for staying committed to getting it done. I would look for a motion to approve the professional services agreement with Kimley-Horn for the 2024 street and utility improvements and the 2024 mill and overlay project feasibility study and 30% design.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Katie,
Second.
second by Nick. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Porter?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Hoyt?
Yes.
Councilmember Burnett?
Yes.
Councilmember Lean?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, our next item, 12.3, is a closed session for Wells Fargo Bank v. True Gravity Ventures, LLC. I'm going to make a motion to close the meeting pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 13D.05, Subdivision 3B, for a confidential attorney-client privilege discussion regarding liability and strategy in the matter of Wells Fargo Bank versus True Gravity Ventures, LLC, Astra Genstar Partnership, LLP, Robert M. Wacholz in the city of Farmington, court file number 19HA-CV-23-308 in Minnesota District Court. I made the motion. I'd look for a second.
Second.
Motion by Hoyt, second by Wilson. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Hoyt?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Porter?
Yes.
Councilmember Lean?
Yes.
Councilmember Burnett?
Yes.